I got all me guns.
Yo, G Money.
I got all me guns. Yeah, I feel like Muhammad Ali when I pull up to the scene. Dodging all these freaks, cause my squad is all I need. I wanna swing like Willie B, how I'm swinging from these trees. Pull off in the Jeep, said I'll see you in a week. I feel like Muhammad Ali when I pull up to the scene. Dodging all these freaks, cause my squad is all I need. I'm gonna swing like Willie B, pull up in your seat. This shit, yeah. Since a youngin', tryna get the wheels in motion, now we run it, See me plugging everybody, ask for something, Bobbing, weaving, bobbing, you ain't nothing. Hold up, let me spin.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in once again this week to Pure Fight Radio. I am Brent Cristelli, and it has been a while since we've done a show. It's been a couple weeks now. The last show we did was a UFC 211 preview, and now we're recapping UFC 212. So we apologize for the lack of content recently. A lot's been happening in our lives, and Manny, my co-host Manny David, is actually out working right now. He just accepted a new position, so he is working on and off for a certain amount of weeks and off for a certain amount of weeks. So when he's working those weeks, he is unable to do the show with us, so that's kind of why we haven't really done a show. Plus, just life has been busy for everybody as well. But I felt very obligated to come back on here and do a show, especially after the events that have happened this past weekend with UFC 212 and now this whole Demetrious Johnson fiasco. So joining me, I've got my fantastic friend from Denver, Colorado, joining us once again that he did from the last episode, Evan Wheeler. So how's it going tonight, Evan?
Good, man. Good to be back on the show as always and enjoying another crazy night of weather in the Mile High City. Been a crazy start to the summer here weather-wise in Denver. But just looking forward to be back on the show, like you said, and discuss UFC 212 and DJ as well, that bombshell, obviously, that he released on MMA Fighting. Going to be fun to talk about that with you here tonight.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to talk about it as well. So what's going on in Colorado? The hailstorms?
Yeah, it's like one day it's a hailstorm, and then we'll have days like literally during the day it'll be raining, and then it'll be 90 degrees, hot as heck, and then rain again, and then hot, just on and off. So the weather's almost as high as the people here, it seems. So it's pretty crazy.
I like that. Yeah, it's kind of the same over here in Virginia, except we're not getting the hailstorms. We're just getting random thunderstorms and like torrential downpours. So I'm right there with you on the crazy weather.
That's weird, man. That might be karma coming after us or something, man. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised. But on to let's get away from the climate change that's happening and let's talk about some mixed martial arts. So we're here to recap UFC 212, which happened this past weekend. Obviously, it took place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Jose Aldo and Max Holloway fought to unify the 145-pound title. And we all saw what happened. Max Holloway defeated Jose Aldo via third-round TKO in a barn burner of a fight. And this was one of the most anticipated fights for me of 2017. And just probably one of the more anticipated fights in general for me, because the way these guys matched up against each other and how good each guy is at what they do. So I was really curious to see what happened. And with the outcome, I wasn't necessarily surprised, and I was at the same time. So it was kind of both for me. I really enjoyed the fight, and I wasn't really disappointed with the outcome at all. I don't understand how you could be unless you hated Max Holloway for some reason, which I don't know why people would hate Max Holloway. But Max Holloway defeated Jose Aldo, and he is the official and undisputed 145-pound champion with no debate. And I don't care what any Conor McGregor fan says, he is the champion, no debate. So, Evan, what did you take away from the fight?
Like you, man, I thought it was a brilliant fight. You know, it was really fun to watch, high tempo, a lot of fun exchanges in terms of at a boxing range. I thought this is a really fun display of boxing in terms of MMA, or at the MMA level by both Jose Aldo and Max Holloway. But, you know, the one narrative about this fight that I found interesting, like coming out of it, you know, so many people are talking about, like, you know, how Max Holloway dominated Jose Aldo, it seems, you know, with this fight. That's been the narrative. And really, I thought Jose Aldo did a pretty darn good job in those first 2 rounds, dictated the range pretty well. I thought he was outboxing Max Holloway for the most part. I thought both guys did a really good job of attacking the body, primarily with the jab. And I thought Aldo, in that first round, he tagged Max Holloway with a really good combination. Started out with the left hook, hit him with a straight right, and then another left hook, and even hit him with that knee. But Max Holloway, showing the great chin that he has, wasn't bothered by that at all, and then really picked up the tempo and the work rate there in the 3rd round. And once he found the range, and once you kind of saw Jose Aldo slow down just a little bit in that 3rd round, Max Holloway was kind of like a shark smelling blood in the water, if you will, and just really poured it on in terms of unloading the combinations, and then that 1-2, 1-2 to finish Jose Aldo, to drop him and then finish him, the ground control, mounting Jose Aldo, the vicious ground and pound. It was just a brilliant finish by Max Holloway, a brilliant fight overall. Again, I'm a little confused by the narrative that Max Holloway just dominated and destroyed Jose Aldo, because I'm with you. I thought it was a really exciting fight, brilliant fight. Great first 2 rounds for Jose Aldo, and just a great show of, like I said, heart, a great show of chin, and a great show of in terms of finding the range and then just unloading combinations and kind of taking a guy's heart away from him a little bit and breaking a guy. I thought Max Holloway displayed that very well here in this fight, and like you said, is now the undisputed champ of the world. And congrats to him, man. Been a long time coming, and that kid's only going to get better, which is the scary thing for the rest of the featherweight division.
It is very scary. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm very confused by this narrative going on that Jose Aldo got absolutely destroyed and the fight wasn't even close and Jose Aldo's over the hill and Jose Aldo was never that good. And that's kind of a topic we're definitely going to get into here very shortly. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a back and forth fight. I actually did not get a chance to watch the fight live, which was very disheartening. So I was keeping up with it on Twitter. And I'm a big Jose Aldo fan, but I really like Max Holloway too. So I was definitely rooting for Jose because it's definitely not going to happen now, like probably ever. But I really wanted to see him get a Conor McGregor rematch. It probably wasn't going to happen even if he won this fight, just because of the way things are heading with McGregor. But I just kind of wanted to see Jose Aldo win and shut everybody up. And for God's sakes, just I can't stand MMA fans. Once again, we're going to get into that. But with that being said, talking about the fight, yeah, the fight was great. It was definitely back and forth. Jose Aldo was really he was outclassing Max Holloway in the first 2 rounds, especially the whole first round when he landed that left hook, starting off the combination with the left hook and then the right straight, and then just put together a beautiful series of punches followed by a knee, which was unreal. I mean, the combination was beautiful. It was fast, it was furious, it was powerful, it was great. It was vintage Jose Aldo, and I loved it. And you kind of saw a bit of a stifled Max Holloway. It seemed he was a bit confused. He was kind of stifled by Jose Aldo's speed. He didn't realize how fast he was initially. And I think everybody is kind of thrown off by Aldo's speed. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that Aldo made in this fight was the fact that he kind of blew his wad in the first couple rounds with the combinations and the counters that he was throwing. When he would throw a counter, he's always been known for throwing all of his might into his punches, but he didn't space them out. He would throw punches in bunches and throw a lot into the punches when he would throw them. And the way he fought Frankie Edgar is how he should have fought Max Holloway. He was very cautious with his punching. He didn't blow his wad whenever he could. He timed his punches right. Just the performance against Frankie Edgar was so masterful, and he utilized his energy correctly. He didn't, like I said, he didn't blow his wad at all throughout the fight, and he really moderated his output. So going into this fight, I was kind of hoping to see that, and he didn't do that. And I was really hoping that he would use leg kicks. He also didn't do that. He threw like one leg kick off of a counter. And yeah, Max Holloway getting hit with leg kicks is probably one of his bigger weaknesses, and I really thought Jose would exploit that. And I don't know if it's because Jose broke his foot a little while ago, I think against Korean Zombie or what, and maybe that's why he's been throwing less leg kicks recently. But, he didn't utilize leg kicks at all, and he used way too much of his energy early in the fight. And when Max slowly started coming around, because Max does have excellent cardio, And then when Max started coming around, he started putting his hands up in front of him, like kind of like a Nate Diaz-esque sort of fight. And then he started throwing those volume punches, those combinations, hitting the body a lot. And then Jose started slowing down just a little bit. And like you said, as soon as Jose slowed down a little bit, Max smelled blood like a shark, and he went in for the kill. He threw a beautiful 1-2 followed by another 1-2 combination, just straight punching, and rocked Jose Aldo. And Jose just tried his hardest to survive, but he just got throttled on the ground. Holloway was not having it, and Holloway picks up the TKO victory late in the third round. I don't think it was an early stoppage either. I definitely think that Big John McCarthy let that fight go on as long as possible, and he gave the champ every chance he had. He just, Jose just couldn't recover. So it was an excellent fight. It was an excellent performance by Max Holloway. Max Holloway is outstanding at 25 years old, and to defeat a legend like Jose Aldo like that is honestly far more impressive than the 13-second knockout over Jose, because we actually got to see a fight play out and kind of, how to beat Jose Aldo. That's the real way how to beat Jose Aldo, in my opinion. So Max really exploited that, and Max was unbelievable in the fight. Very class act afterwards. Felt very bad for Jose Aldo, being one of my favorite fighters as well. So Max is the undisputed champ now, and this is really the first time in a long time that you're not going to see Jose Aldo's next fight be for a title. So where do both guys go from here? Does Max Holloway fight Frankie Edgar next? Does he fight Cub Swanson next? And who the hell does Jose Aldo fight next?
That's a great question, man, especially in terms of Jose Aldo, because to lose in the fashion he did, it's so frustrating, because like we mentioned, those first two rounds he controlled pretty well. Not to say that he dominated Max Holloway by any stretch of the imagination, but like you said, for the most part, he was outclassing Max Holloway in the boxing realm, and was really dictating the range and was fighting well. And for him to lose in the fashion that he did, and again, as you mentioned, the lack of leg kicks, once again, to not see the usual output of leg kicks that we do from Aldo, and you could almost single-handedly blame that for the reason he lost Holloway. Because I think, if he would have thrown more leg kicks, who knows what happens. It's just an interesting situation for him to be in, because it's like you got people saying that you're old now, and you got people saying that you got dominated, but the reality is you outclass this guy, for the first two rounds, and then had a tough third round, got caught with a good combo, and he got finished. It is what it is. It's tough. It's tough, man. But I almost think we could maybe see Jose Aldo go to 155, and if Anthony Pettis beats Jim Miller, maybe that's a fun fight you do for the fans, Jose Aldo versus Anthony Pettis. If he stays at 145, man, I really don't know. Maybe a rematch with Cub Swanson. I know Cub Swanson really has been on a tear as of late and wants that title shot with Max Holloway, but with the way that Max dominated him and with the way that Frankie Edgar even dominated him in San Antonio a couple years back, I'm not sure he's quite deserving yet of that title shot. So maybe that's the moves for Jose Aldo. Maybe, like I said, maybe a fight with Anthony Pettis. Granted, he gets past Jim Miller. Maybe a rematch with Cub Swanson would be fun. On a Fox card or maybe a Fight Night card in Brazil or something. And as for Max Holloway, like I said, I think Frankie Edgar's the guy to give him. They haven't matched up before. Frankie Edgar, outside of that loss to Jose Aldo, has really, dominated at 145, destroyed Cub Swanson already as well. So he kind of has that in his back pocket, and is coming off such a dominating and devastating win over such a young, exciting prospect in Yair Rodriguez, and to beat him up the way they did, to shut his eye and dominate him. I think that performance alone, and then get the fact that Frankie also already beat Cub, that's probably the fight for Max Holloway. And maybe that's the fight you make in Hawaii, man. If there's some way that they can get a UFC Hawaii done, that'd be a great way to introduce, the UFC's first event in Hawaii. Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar would make a lot of sense. So those are just some ideas I have, and nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see where these guys go, especially Jose Aldo, because again, you lost a fight, and you lost in a dominating fashion or whatever. That's a narrative being played out, but the reality is you kind of outclass this guy and just kind of let it go there in that third round. So I'm really intrigued to see where Jose Aldo goes next and see how he bounces back, being the legend that he is.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think I would really like to see Jose Aldo move up to 155. He really doesn't have anything left to prove at 145. I wouldn't mind. I mean, I think the only real route to go at 145 is the Cub Swanson rematch, like you said, and I was thinking that beforehand. If he really wants to stay at 145, which he might, but he had even said he was contemplating going up to 155 and fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov if Khabib wanted to take that fight, just so he could kind of get closer to fighting Conor McGregor. But I would just like to see Aldo compete at 155 just for the fact of competing at 155 because, like I said, he's got the record for title defenses at 145. He's the original 145-pound king, except Uriah Faber maybe, who really was like the starter of the 145-pound division. Then Jose took over. But Jose was the guy. Jose was the king of 145, and he always will be the king of 145. He will be at least the first king of 145, no matter what happened against Max Holloway, no matter what happened against Conor McGregor. Jose Aldo will always be a legend, will always be the first best pound-for-pound 145-pounder ever. And I don't think anyone who actually has a brain and has actually been paying attention to mixed martial arts like me and you have, I don't think anybody else is going to think any different. So I would really like to see Aldo fight at 155. I think that would honestly help his cardio out a lot. He's always kind of had trouble making the weight to 145, and he's always kind of had a cardio issue. So maybe a move up to 155 will be better. He might be able to bulk up a little bit. He won't have to worry about cutting as much weight. His cardio might be even better from it as well. We've seen guys who have actually gone up in weight class and do a lot better. For instance, Robert Whittaker, and recently Kelvin Gastelum. He's done a lot better at 185 than he has at 170 because, he doesn't have to cut as much weight and he's got better cardio. So a move up to 155, I think, would be really entertaining and really awesome to see Jose Aldo do. And it'd be a real fresh move for him instead of just being at 145 and, knowing that he's probably going to beat everybody but Max Holloway, because that's just, even with the way he outclassed Holloway initially, and even if he were to use leg kicks more and have a bit of a better game plan, just the way he did get beat, a lot of people aren't going to be interested in that rematch unless, the only way, so it's really kind of tough to see who gets a title shot at 145 past Frankie Edgar or Cub Swanson. Because let's say you do Frankie Edgar and Max Holloway, which is likely the inevitable fight that's going to happen. Fantastic fight, outstanding, and I'm not even sure who's going to win that fight. That's such a good fight, like style-wise. Let's say Frankie Edgar beats Max Holloway, and you have Jose Aldo and Cub Swanson fight, and Jose Aldo beats Cub Swanson. Do you do Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar 3? I mean, we kind of all know the outcome that's going to happen, and then if Max Holloway wins, is he going to fight Jose Aldo? Is the same outcome going to happen? So I'd like to see something shaken up, so I wouldn't mind seeing a move for Jose to 155, like you said. And I would love an Anthony Pettis matchup as well if Pettis gets past Jim Miller, because that's a fight that MMA fans have been dreaming about for years. Not just that, but the fight was actually going to happen a few years back, and it fell through for one reason or another. So I would love to see Jose move up to 155. If not, I definitely think a Cub Swanson fight is likely. Other than that, I mean, I don't really know where either of these guys go. I mean, what do you think about the future of 145?
It's in a tough position because of Conor McGregor, and I hate to I know Conor McGregor's been beaten to death already for the layoff that he's taken and the fact that he's chasing the fight with Floyd Mayweather, and I don't even want to start that whole discussion, but he's to blame for sure in a way for kind of the position 145's in right now, because like you said, if you do Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar, which is what you're inevitably going to probably have to do, because it's just the fight at the time currently that makes the most sense in terms of a title fight at 145, and Frankie Edgar beats Max Holloway, then what the hell do you do then? Because Frankie Edgar's already dominated Cub Swanson, but then he's already been dominated twice by Jose Aldo, the only two other viable guys, for a title shot, I'd say, currently at featherweight. So it's in a real interesting position. I mean, I think Aldo, like you said, the move is lightweight. I think it would be good for his longevity in the sport going forward. It'd be great for his cardio. We all know a lot's been made about, Conor McGregor's cut to featherweight and how brutal it is, and it's super brutal. But let's not forget how brutal the 145-pound weight cut has been for Jose Aldo throughout the years, and the toll that's probably taken on him. So, maybe, going to 155 really is the move for him. And like I said, he got the Anthony Pettis matchup. I was thinking maybe even a fight with like a guy like Paul Felder, maybe a fight with a guy like Al Iaquinta, something like that. There's more, I guess, flavor, if you will, in terms of matchups for Jose Aldo at 155 than there currently is at 145. So it's tough, man. The 145 is in a really, I don't want to say shitty, but I also do want to say shitty situation right now because of Conor McGregor. I hate to say, but nonetheless, if we end up with Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar, and we end up with Swanson, Aldo too, that's a great, those are two great fights. And Aldo and Swanson, you have the whole backstory of the first fight with the double flying knee in WEC. But then, like I said, Aldo going to 155 would be super fun, man. And any of those fights, Felder, Iaquinta, Anthony Pettis, any of those guys, Joe Lozon. I mean, there's some guys at 155 that would just be fun scraps for Aldo. And I think for him, probably in terms of probably what's best for his health going forward, that's also probably the right move for him and his camp. And probably also, I think his family would probably want him to go to lightweight as well. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, just to kind of change things up, because it kind of has been the same narrative for him for the past multiple years. I mean, just recently with the whole Conor McGregor saga going on, this is like the most different it's been for him at 145. Right. Now things have really been shaken up with the Max Holloway loss. But I definitely think Conor McGregor has messed things up at 145, and he's destroying the 155-pound division as we speak. I really want to like Conor just based off of his fighting. And if I weren't to pay attention to anything else but him fighting, I would love Conor McGregor. But the constant, the UFC treatment of him over other fighters and prefer of him instead of other fighters, which we're really about to talk in just a few moments with Demetrious Johnson, the treatment with him getting like this special treatment compared to other guys, and him being able to just not defend his belt if he would like to. He beat Jose Aldo for the title and never even tried to defend it. I would have loved to see Conor McGregor fight Frankie Edgar, but guess what? That's a bad matchup for Conor McGregor, and I'm sure he didn't want that fight, and I'm sure Frankie Edgar's not a big enough name for him to possibly lose that fight. So he wasn't going to do that, and he was offered the 155-pound title shot immediately when he won for 145, which, when he was offered that fight, I was pretty irritated because Jose Aldo held that title for, God knows how many years. Since if we count since he won it in the WEC, he held that title for over 6 years, close to 7. And he was never offered a title shot at 155. And while a lot of people say apparently he didn't try to go for it, there are rumors that he actually did. He did try to talk to Dana about going up, and Dana didn't let him do it, which absolutely doesn't surprise me at all. And the fact that he let Conor do it right away was very frustrating for me. So that immediately messed up the featherweight division. And then when you had this whole Nate Diaz fiasco going on with Conor, that they had the rematch, then the UFC 200 stuff. If Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor had fought at UFC 200 when Jose Aldo defeated Frankie Edgar, that fight, Aldo and McGregor too, probably would have happened if win or lose against Diaz. With that being said, that didn't happen because that fight happened later at UFC 202. And then, everyone kind of forgot about Jose Aldo's performance at UFC 200 because it was the second fight on the card. And, Conor wants this 155-pound title shot, and Eddie Alvarez is calling him out and stuff like that. So then they throw that fight together. Conor wins that, and now he's trying to fight Floyd Mayweather. So he's messed up 2 divisions now. And, what irritates me a lot about MMA fans, and let's go ahead and get into this right now, they forget things so easily. And I've never seen so many comments about Aldo being a bum than after this past weekend, and how Aldo's over the hill and how Aldo should retire. Did you guys not pay attention for the past 7 years where Jose Aldo was throttling everybody at 145? And the only guy he lost to, aside from Max Holloway, beat him in 13 seconds, and he didn't get his rematch. people forget that, and people also, when people say like that rematch shouldn't happen because he got knocked out so quickly, they quickly forget about fights like Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos. Not saying that Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor are the same as that fight, and that Jose Aldo would beat Conor McGregor the same way that Cain Velasquez beat Junior Dos Santos in those rematches. But it's just the idea, and it's the whole concept of it. If Jose Aldo was the champ for that long, he deserves a rematch, an immediate rematch, in my opinion. He didn't get it. And when he beat Frankie Edgar, he should have got his rematch. He didn't. And now he loses to Max Holloway. He's never going to get his rematch. And it's kind of going to be difficult for him to ever get back to that plateau for the casual fan or for everyone who's got a very short memory. But for people like you and me, we're going to recognize the fact that Jose Aldo is the best featherweight ever to this date. And no loss to Conor McGregor or Max Holloway is going to change that. So MMA fans just piss me off. And what do you think about MMA fans?
I mean, I'm with you there, man. They're frustrating. It's a very what have you done for me lately sport. You know, like you said, MMA fans tend to have a very short memory, I guess, and forget how dominant Jose Aldo was. I mean, to call Jose Aldo a bum is one of the most idiotic things you could say. I mean, you're talking about, in my opinion, still, I mean, I know he's lost to Max Holloway, whatever. He got knocked down in 13 seconds. Still to this day, like him or Conor McGregor, you're talking about the best featherweight of all time, a legend in terms of Brazilian mixed martial arts and what he's done over there for that community and in terms of growing the sport over there and the next generation of fighters in Brazil. And it's frustrating, man. It's MMA fans, and not all of them, but a good portion of them really buy into what they see on Fox Sports on UFC Tonight, and you know what they hear from Dana White, and that's their main source of information. A lot of MMA fans, that's their main source of where they hear their new MMA news, and I think that's a big problem as well. And they're so influenced by it, and it's kind of what Dana White says, or you know what. You know, they hear Michael Bisping say on UFC Tonight, it's, you know, that's gospel for them, you know, some fans. So it's frustrating to hear a guy like Jose Aldo, you know, his legacy be tarnished in the way that it has, you know, because of, you know, the loss to Max Holloway last weekend and obviously because of the knockout to Conor McGregor. But, you know, I'll always respect him. And again, this is a sport that it's very what have you done lately, and I think we really need to get back to appreciating the history more of it and the legends more of the sport. You know, like Kazushi Sakuraba was just inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Like that's super awesome. You know, that's something that should be celebrated, and
nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, nobody. But exactly my point. Nobody's talking about it, and you know, you got people calling Jose Aldo a chump and things like that, and saying he's old and washed up, and it's frustrating. It's unfortunately the sport that we live in, at least today. And again, people, you know, they take what Dana White and Conor McGregor and what they see on UFC Tonight for, you know, gospel. That's what they say is absolutes, you know, and that's not the case at all. And regardless of anyone says, you know, Jose Aldo is one of the few guys that got me into this sport. I'm kind of reminiscing here a little bit and rambling. I apologize, but
no, go ahead, man. Do all the rambling you need to do right now. This is what the show's for.
Because Jose Aldo is one of the first guys that really I kind of got infatuated with as a fight fan, just because of the, you know, obviously the flying knees and the leg kicks and the speed and the power and the fluidity of the technique and the takedown defense and the boxing skills mixed with the devastating kicks. Like, I was just so infatuated in the story, you know, that this is a guy that was thrown in a grill, you know, when he was 4 or 5 years old, and is from the favelas of Brazil, the slums of Brazil, you know, wasn't supposed to be anything. And the fact that he's gotten to this point and the amount of title defenses that he's had, the legacy that he's built, to me, will never be tarnished by 13 seconds or tarnished by a bad minute or two against Max Holloway in a fight that he was winning up until that point. So it's frustrating. I'm with you. I feel your pain 100%, Brent, and I'm sure, you know, we're even going to get more into this when we touch on the whole DJ subject. But just focusing on Jose Aldo, if you think he's a bum, I think you're a complete moron, and I think you really need to take a history lesson. Do yourself a favor, spend $8.99, get UFC Fight Pass, and rewatch Jose Aldo's whole entire career, and just really soak it in and appreciate the level of greatness that man is. Like I said, 13 seconds will never tarnish that man's legacy, not in my eyes.
No, not at all. I was actually really disappointed to hear Joe Rogan say that. And
me too. I was shocked to hear that. Very shocked to hear that.
Coming from Joe Rogan, and recently Joe Rogan's like, Conor McGregor is better than both Max Holloway and Jose Aldo. How can you say that? Conor McGregor beat Max Holloway like 4 years ago when Max Holloway was like 21 years old. And Max Holloway's way more polished now. And actually, I mean, that's a great fight. I would love to see that fight. Probably not going to happen, but I would love to see that fight now, especially with kind of the way Max Holloway's kind of adapted his style and the way he fought Jose Aldo. I feel like would be kind of similar to a Conor McGregor rematch. He would take Conor shots early, and when Conor starts to slow down, that's when Max is going to start picking it up, and Conor's going to be in trouble. That's kind of the same thing I would see right now with Max Holloway. So the fact that it's not even just these casual fans who aren't really paying attention and only watch UFC Tonight, it's even Joe Rogan, who was on his podcast talking about how Jose Aldo's legacy is tarnished by 13 seconds, which is unreal to me. And like you said, Jose Aldo, he used to sleep in the gym because he didn't have a home. It's insane. And Jose Aldo was one of the guys who first got me into the WEC as well. All due respect to Uriah Faber and basically him building the WEC from the ground up. But, like you said, Jose Aldo's speed, flying knees, leg kicks, everything like that, his explosiveness, the way he fought, the way he knocked out Cub Swanson in 8 seconds. The dude was a phenom, and he was crazy, and I loved watching him fight. And he was really the first guy that really got me into the WEC. And then we started seeing guys like Anthony Pettis and Ben Henderson and Donald Cerrone and, the list goes on, Dominic Cruz, Benavidez, and of course Miguel Torres. Miguel Torres and Uriah Faber were kind of like both building the WEC back in the day before, everybody else kind of came through. But it's really unfortunate to see fans have such a short memory and say that, especially Joe Rogan, to say that Jose Aldo's legacy is tarnished by 13 seconds, which is like the most mind-boggling and frustrating thing I've ever heard in my life. And like you said, they need to go buy Fight Pass and just spend, a few hours watching some of Jose Aldo's old fights, and they'll be like, wow, this guy was freaking awesome. So, what can you do about that? But yeah, like you said, 13 seconds and a knockout and a TKO victory from Max Holloway doesn't change anything from Jose Aldo. He's the best featherweight I've ever seen in my life, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next, and I'm really interested to seeing what he does next. And like you said, anybody who calls him a bum, moron. Simple as that.
And I'll tell you something right now. In my opinion, I think a 13-second knockout loss is a lot less tarnishing in terms of an overall scope, if we're talking about legacy, than clearly ducking not one, not two, probably 3 top contenders in their prime to go fight a
boxer,
45-year-old boxer who's 49-0 and hasn't fought in 3 years.
Yeah,
so if we want to talk about tarnishing legacies, though, and we want to get really real, let's discuss Conor McGregor and kind of the fact that he's not building his own legend up in MMA and not fighting Tony Ferguson, not fighting Max Holloway, not fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov. To me, that's more of a travesty. That's more tarnishing your legacy. The fact that you'll look back 10, 15 years from now and know that you didn't fight the best in the world at the time when you were at your peak and you didn't prove you were the best. Jose Aldo did it for 7 years, Yep. And again, I'm not trying to disrespect Conor McGregor in any way. I think he's amazing. I love what the man has done for the sport. I love his bravado. I love his confidence, his self-belief. It's incredible. But if we're really going to get in that game of tarnishing legacies, man, I don't know how someone can sit here and just shit on Jose Aldo's career with the 13-second knockout and now this loss to Max Holloway and not in turn criticize Conor McGregor's so-called legacy when the man hasn't even had a title defense. Yep. You know what I mean?
All right, let's do it. Let's get into this. Let's screw it. Let's get into it. So let's break down the rest of this real quick. Claudia Gadelha defeated Karolina Kowalkiewicz by submission. Very impressive. She I would like to see her fight Joanna. She doesn't want to fight Joanna yet. She wants to kind of wait, and when her time is ready, she'll fight Joanna. So props to her. And Vitor Belfort beat Nate Marquardt. Great. Do you have anything else to touch about those fights?
In terms of Godela and Kovacevic, man, like I was super just impressed and surprised with just how quick the finish came for Claudia Gadelha. I thought she's
excellent.
Yeah, she's excellent on the ground. I mean, really so suffocating, so strong. Obviously, the way she just kind of manhandled and kind of outmuscled Kovacevic for that takedown was brilliant. And then I think she was working for the choke even with only one hook in. So just showing her grappling prowess and to submit someone of Kovacevic's caliber and of her toughness in 3 minutes is just brilliant, uber impressive. And again, Claudia Gadelha, really that move that she's made to the States, man, it's shown in her skills, her confidence. She's really, it seems to be at her peak, and her fluidity striking wise, her footwork really has gotten better. And I kind of like what she said. I don't think she should fight Jędrzejczyk next. I think, waiting and sitting back and maybe improving her skills, kind of getting rest, enjoying life a little bit. That might be the best approach for her. Let Jędrzejczyk and Namajunas kind of handle their business, and then she'll probably face the winner of that. And Belfort and Nate Marquardt, man, that's a tough fight to talk about because those are two guys that, I grew up watching. We're at 1.2 of the 5 best middleweights in the world.
Yep.
And to see how much they've declined and Father Time is undefeated. He's going to beat us all. He's going to beat me, you, everyone listening to this podcast. So not to hate on these guys too much, but just to see the decline that these two men have shown from where they once were as, again, 2 of the top 5 middleweights in the world to now. It was a weird to watch. It wasn't depressing. It wasn't difficult. It was just kind of weird. In a way, it's kind of, weird. Kind of like hang out. I don't want to see these guys fighting at this level, if that makes sense. And Vitor Belfort saying there's more to come. I mean, as a guy that's a huge Phenom fan, I'll always watch him fight whoever, but I have no idea who you can even give him that makes sense in terms of a viable matchup that he can even win. And as for Nate Marquardt with his injuries and just kind of with the recent finishes he's took and the battles he's been in and even like steroid usage that he's had over the years, I think it's time to hang it up, man. Like he needs to just stop fighting. I hate to say that, but that's what I kind of had to take away from that Marquardt Belfort fight.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't, it was a fight. I wasn't even. It sucks because if you had that fight like 3 years ago, it's like, oh, that's a really good middleweight fight. Yeah, marquee matchup. And now it's just, Vitor Belfort, Nate Marquardt. Oh, okay. Vitor's obviously off the TRT and past his prime. Nate Marquardt is past his prime, Father Time, like you said, undefeated. And Claudia Gadelha, fantastic. I mean, she is amazing. And the move to the States, like you said, really did help her out. And I think when she gets her title shot against Joanna again, she's, like she said, I love her mindset because she doesn't want to get right back in there. She wants to, take her time. She wants to earn it, and she wants to prove that she's earned the title shot, which I respect her so much for, and I think it's awesome that she's doing that. And she's only going to get better, and I think Joanna's amazing, but Claudia's shown that, while she has cardio and while she's not dead tired, she's the only one that's really come close to defeating Jędrzejczyk. So, and she's the only one that's really done well against her. So, a really polished Gadelha in the next couple years against a even more polished Jędrzejczyk in the next couple years. Whew, that's gonna be fireworks.
Yeah, that's amazing right there. That's brilliant right there.
So that's what we got there. But let's go ahead and let's discuss it. Conor McGregor, completely avoiding top contenders because everyone wants to avoid that conversation. And like you said, I really appreciate everything Conor's done for the sport. He brought a ton of new fans to the sport, whether they're good or bad, mostly bad. But, he's brought a lot of eyes to the sport. He's brought a lot of new media into the sport. He just made the Forbes list today as like the number 85th highest paid athlete in the world, which is amazing. It's the first time an MMA fighter has ever been in the Forbes rankings. And recently he was in ESPN's like top 100 athletes. I think it was him, Ronda Rousey, and also Anderson Silva was in there too, which I was really surprised by. But Anderson Silva's huge in Brazil, so I can't be too surprised. But with that being said, Conor McGregor, I mean, when we're talking about Jose Aldo's legacy and him, quote-unquote, having it tarnished by a 13-second knockout, and when you talk about Conor McGregor's legacy and about how Dana White's preaching Conor McGregor will fight anybody, why didn't he fight Frankie Edgar then after he defeated Jose Aldo 145? Why is he clearly avoiding Khabib Nurmagomedov? Why is he clearly avoiding Tony Ferguson? He's got his reasons, quote unquote. Khabib never shows up, he never makes weight, blah blah blah. All right, fight Tony then. You are the 155-pound kingpin right now. You hold that title, and as much as I love Eddie Alvarez, I really felt like going into that fight, it was almost like Eddie had no chance. It was just a really bad matchup for him, and he didn't fight smart whatsoever. And Conor knew it was a bad matchup for him. And I feel like, and Conor's not a dumb guy, he's really smart. So Conor sees an opportunity to fight Floyd Mayweather right now, in at a time where Floyd's old and Floyd's retired, and he gets a lot of money. And you never know, he might be able to knock him out with the right punch because he's young and he's got decent boxing skills. And Floyd's old. So that's where he sees his opportunity. He doesn't see his opportunities in actually having a legacy. He sees his opportunities in getting money and being famous and having the casual fans like him more so than the actual fans who pay attention to the sport and are actually counting legacies. Because ESPN's not talking about Jose Aldo's legacy. We know that. ESPN's not even talking about GSP's legacy, Anderson Silva's legacy. They don't care about that. They care about Conor McGregor. They care about Ronda Rousey. And if Brock Lesnar fights, they care about him. They don't care about John Jones's legacy either, really. So, really the only people who are paying attention to guys, MMA fighters' actual legacies, are people like me and you. And unfortunately, there's not many of me and you around. So... we've got an instance where Conor is literally avoiding every top contender at 155 and 145. He's looking for fights that he has nothing to lose. And it's really ironic how in just about every single fight he's had nothing to lose.
It is. It's very weird because, I mean, I don't know. It's just funny. Like, it's just funny to me again that Jose Aldo's legacy, like we said, we're so quick to discuss that 13 seconds, but with a guy like Conor McGregor, I don't know if it's the mainstream's infatuation with him. I don't know I don't know what it is, but the fact that we can't have more discussions like the one we're having right now, like truthfully about his legacy, it's I think that's also one of the problems, man. It's just the way some people look at this sport. It's very confusing.
I agree wholeheartedly, and it's really, like you said, confusing. And I want to like Conor McGregor a lot, but the fans make me not like him. His fans are the worst human beings on the face of the earth because they don't pay attention to any, like, in terms of mixed martial arts. I mean, I'm sure they're good people, but in terms of mixed martial arts and being a fan and actually having knowledge about this sport, they are the worst because they don't pay attention to anything other than him. So every time, whenever I see Jose Aldo have a post on Instagram or there's a post from MMA Fighting about Jose Aldo, I want to click to see what the responses are. But I know there's not going to be a single thread about Jose Aldo where there's not going to be some stupid Conor McGregor fan commenting 13 seconds. And it pisses me off every time I see that. It's like, come on, man. Like, stop. Do you have anything better to do with your life than comment 13 seconds on a Jose Aldo article? Do you?
Right.
So, like we said, we're talking about legacies. We're talking about a guy who defended his title for 6+ years, was the featherweight kingpin, really the true first featherweight legend, and the best featherweight ever. Still to this day. Like you said, no 13 seconds, no TKO against Max Holloway is going to change that. So we're really talking about legacies. We're talking about a guy who defended his title for over 6 years against every 145er they put against him. He had to rematch Frankie Edgar. He had to rematch Chad Mendez. Both of them bad matchups for him. He's fighting Max Holloway here because he has to. He's not avoiding any of these guys. He had to fight guys like Ricardo Lamas and and Korean Zombie. You know, guys who weren't the best pay-per-view draws, but, you know, they're the next the next challenger at 145, so he's got to fight him. Why is Conor McGregor allowed to just kind of leeway his way out of fights like this? Because he's Conor McGregor? Because the UFC knows, oh, he's going to bring in all my revenue. Maybe they should start, like, we've had an episode on the UFC's merit ever since WME took over. And with the WME takeover, we're getting more and more in that direction of money fights that they're trying to make, with obviously fights like GSP and Michael Bisping, which I don't even think is a big money fight, in all honesty. So we're heading more so in that direction instead of merit and actual people earning their title shots. Some divisions are still acting like that, but others aren't. So, like, just it's so frustrating. So while we're talking about this, it's like the perfect time to bring up DJ, because now we've got a situation where the best pound for pound fighter on the planet, are arguably, I'm not going to say the greatest of all time, but he's up there, one of the greatest of all time, is being threatened to have his division closed because he won't take a fight against a 135-pound challenger. A guy who's never fought at 125 before. DJ can't even get pay-per-view points. DJ's asking for the fight to be on his terms, and Dana won't even allow it. He's threatening to close the division. He's threatening to never give him pay-per-view points. I've never seen anything like this. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's baffling. You know, we were discussing this before the show, and I really couldn't come up with one word to describe how I felt about that Demetrious Johnson statement, because you read it and you hear some of these things, you hear some of these accusations, and before we get into that, let's just be really clear about Demetrious Johnson. You're talking about single-handedly the best fighter in MMA today. It is not an argument I do not want to hear from anybody. As of today, DJ is the best fighter in the world, hands down the best flyweight of all time, probably one of the 3 or 4 best fighters ever. And you're just talking about a classy guy, a guy that's always been super humble, company guy, has fought, you know, anyone they've asked, done everything they've asked. So when you hear these accusations come from him, you take them more serious, and you take them a little more to heart. I know I did, and I think, you know, as Brent mentioned earlier, I think there's a lot of fans like us and like many that are listening to this, that we all have seen for years the way that, you know, mainly Dana White and the UFC, how they do things behind the scenes, and how they run their ship, and the way they treat fighters. We all know it's been bullshit, and it's been, you know, crap for years. But when you see this, and again, you hear this, I haven't listened to the interview with Ariel Helwani yet. It's definitely something I'll be listening to very soon. But just the statement, reading it alone, like you said, the fact that a guy like Demetrious Johnson, again, the best fighter in the world today, hands down, one title defense away from breaking Anderson Silva's UFC title defense record, the fact that he's getting bullied into a fight with TJ Dillashaw, and I mean this with all due respect to TJ Dillashaw, who's a phenomenal fighter in his own right. This is a guy who got knocked out by John Dodson, okay? A guy that Demetrious Johnson dismantled twice. So, again, we're talking about you're getting bullied into a fight with a guy that it really makes no sense for you whatsoever to fight him. He's never fought at flyweight, okay? It's not like he's the bantamweight champion currently. And again, he has a loss to a guy that Demetrious Johnson has already handled twice. And you know, the fact that they don't want to give him pay-per-view points, I mean, imagine if the NBA treated LeBron James like this, or Steph Curry like this. Imagine if the NHL treated Sidney Crosby and PK Subban, or the MLB treated Bryce Harper, or the NFL treated Tom Brady. If they treated their top player, their best star, like the way the UFC is treating DJ. Again, when you really go into these accusations, and you know, you read the things that they're saying to him, the things that Dana White is saying to him, and the bullying that he's playing, and the back and forth, and the fact that they're making poor Mick Maynard just the middleman, and the fact that they got to make him just be the like messenger boy is even more petty from a 40-plus-year-old grown man to be doing that to joke. And it's like DJ once again is still trying to be a company man. He's trying to fight Ray Borg, the top contender in his division, and again, this is a guy that's never been promoted. nearly as much as most champions in the UFC. For the longest time, the criticism, DJ, he's too small. Okay, well, he's beating everyone in his division. He's dominant. Oh, well, he doesn't finish fights. Then he knocks out Joseph Benavidez. He submits Kyoji Horiguchi with 1 second left in the fight. He submits Wilson Hayes, Dominic Cruz's Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach, in the 3rd round. So it's like, what's the criticism? You never promote the guy. You say, he doesn't get ratings, but you never promote him. I mean, you promote Joanna Jędrzejczyk more than you promote Demetrious Johnson. It's you promote Jermaine de Randamie more than you promote Demetrious Johnson. It's like I don't know what they expect.
Oh my god,
it's just frustrating, man. And like I said, that statement, I can't really put one word on how I feel about it, but I think the best word I can use to describe it is just kind of just appalling, man. It's really a shame that a guy of DJ's caliber has got to put up with that shit.
It is appalling. It is absolutely appalling. It is so frustrating as a mixed martial arts fan and trying to see this sport be legitimized and see this sport up there on ESPN getting coverage like it should, compared to, it's never going to be on a level with the NFL or NBA. Face it. I'm not here trying to promote that. And even like on a stage like the MLB, the way the ESPN talks about MLB compared to MMA, it's getting there because of the way the MLB is almost falling. But the UFC is not talked about like other sports unless Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey are fighting, and maybe if John Jones is fighting somebody significant like DC, or back in the day when Anderson Silva was fighting, he would get some coverage and GSP would get some coverage. But Demetrious Johnson, I don't think he's ever had coverage on ESPN. I don't think he's ever had coverage. And like you said, it's because they don't promote him. They promote Joanna Jędrzejczyk a lot more than they promote Demetrious Johnson. Demetrious Johnson said he got in front of a green screen and he what's the word? He basically sparred the air for like 2 hours, and they didn't use any of the footage. So yeah, so it's stuff like that. And he was I didn't get to catch all of the Ariel Helwani interview on the MMA Hour, but I did get to hear enough of him say that he's he watches FS1 because of his kids, because they like Monster Jam and whatnot. They like the shows that come on FS1. And on Fox Sports, he didn't see a single promo for his fight with Wilson Hayes, but he saw a ton for UFC 210 with Anthony Johnson and Daniel Cormier. What do you have to do to promote the greatest guy in the world, the greatest fighter in the world, without a doubt? All you've got to do is show his highlights. It's the same thing, like LeBron James isn't out here talking like Conor McGregor. If he was out there talking like Conor McGregor, he would get slandered every day by the media. But Conor McGregor does, he's obviously fighting is a different sport, and, people are going to like it in terms of fighting because you're fighting each other, which is fine. But in a world where, in most sports, where people prefer the humble person over the loudmouth, for instance, LeVar Ball, and people are hating on Lonzo Ball because of LeVar Ball, because he talks so much, and he talks so much almost like to the equivalent of a Conor McGregor, but because it's basketball, it's a different story. So people hate Lonzo Ball because of it. Some people don't even want to talk about drafting Lonzo Ball because of his father. If Lonzo actually talked like that himself, he probably wouldn't even get drafted. So that's the big difference in the sports. But with that being said, you've got LeBron James and Steph Curry and, Kevin Durant, everybody like that, Paul George in the NBA, and even in the NFL, you got so many superstars who are super humble and just let their play speak for themselves, and it's covered because of their play. It should be the same exact instance with Demetrious Johnson. Demetrious Johnson should be covered like that because of his fighting abilities. He's not, and it's a travesty. And the fact that he's getting treatment like this from the president of the UFC, Dana White, a guy who, I've never been a huge fan of, but I've never really hated up until recent. His treatment of Conor McGregor over every other UFC fighter and Ronda Rousey, both of those guys, both of those, guys and girls, over everybody else is appalling, like you just said. It's disgusting. It's really irritating to see a guy like Demetrious Johnson get treated like a guy who just had his first UFC fight on the prelims and not the greatest fighter that we're seeing right now. And we're seeing Conor McGregor get treated like he's Muhammad Ali or like he's Anderson Silva. And you see people commenting online and how Conor McGregor's the GOAT of MMA. Conor McGregor doesn't have a title defense. He won't defend his title. No, he's not the GOAT. He's not even close. Maybe get like 8, 9, 10 title defenses and we'll talk about you being the GOAT. He's the first fighter to ever hold 2 belts simultaneously. He had good matchups. He fought Dennis Seaver to get a title shot. Dennis Seaver. Are you kidding me? Dennis Seaver. No disrespect to Dennis Seaver. He could kick my ass any day of the week. Dennis Seaver. That's who he fought for his title shot. And then he beats Chad Mendes, who fought on like a week and a half notice and had no cardio. Had Chad Mendes actually had a full training camp, Chad Mendes probably would have won that fight. Then he sneaks by Jose Aldo with a 13-second KO, and then gets an immediate title shot at 155. That goes through. He gets punked by Nate Diaz, gets a rematch for no reason, because he's Conor and he wants it. You know, not like Jose Aldo couldn't get his rematch after 6+ years of defending his title and really wanting it and deserving it after beating Frankie Edgar, but he couldn't get it, but Conor gets his rematch. He scathes by Nate Diaz in a great fight, but scathes by him, you know, saying that, oh, Conor went up and fought a 300-pound Nate Diaz. Nate was huge compared to Conor. Yo, they're both 155ers, and they fought at 170. Conor's a 155-pound champion. Nate is a 155er. Nate's a 155er, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this isn't a guy who's, you know, going up to 185 and fighting Yoel Romero or anything, guys. He's fighting Nate Diaz, who's a 155er and can fight at 170. And Conor obviously can't carry that weight. But he scathes by Nate Diaz and then gets his title shot at 155 against Eddie Alvarez. Once again, all due respect to Eddie Alvarez. Great fighter, legend in the sport. He doesn't get enough credit as he should. You know, his fight with Dustin Poirier was one of the craziest things I've ever seen that just recently happened. He doesn't get enough credit, but on all due respect, that's a horrible matchup for Eddie Alvarez. It's a great matchup for Conor, and Conor punks him. So now Conor's doing whatever the hell he wants to do. He gets this amazing credit from everybody in the world like he's the best fighter ever. He's never defended a title. Never defended a title. And he gets treated like and he gets paid like he's freaking LeBron James of mixed martial arts. He's not. Demetrious Johnson is the LeBron James of mixed martial arts. He gets paid like, I'm not too knowledgeable about NBA, but he gets paid like, I don't know, you can name a worsely paid basketball player in the NBA. Compare Demetrious Johnson to somebody in the NBA.
Yeah, he gets paid like, if we're talking, comparing Conor McGregor to LeBron James, he gets paid like, I don't know, Gordon Hayward.
Like, but worse, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably even worse, you know, with the way he's treated for sure.
So, like, that's what we've got going on right now. And the state of the UFC, not just the UFC, but mixed martial arts, is so appalling to watch. And because we were really in the process of it becoming a legitimized sport. Not, you know, I mean, we got the legalization in New York, but it was being more legitimized across all platforms on social media, you know, on ESPN, on Fox now, is really starting to be legitimized. And Conor McGregor really helped get the push to the mainstream. But the way and this isn't his, well, it's definitely partially his fault. Like 100%. But the UFC has control of everything. When the UFC pulled Conor out of his fight with Nate Diaz, I was very happy because Conor wanted this, Conor wanted that, and he wasn't gonna do it the UFC's way, so the UFC wasn't having it. Now the UFC is like, oh sure, you want to fight Mayweather? We'll go out of our way to try to make this fight happen. Oh, you want to skip all of your title defenses and never defend a title? Sure thing. Let's get you $50 million and then you can retire. So like, Anderson Silva was never allowed to box Roy Jones when he wanted to. Anderson Silva, you know, wasn't given a 205-pound title shot when likely he would have for sure probably beaten whoever was the title holder at the time. So Anderson Silva was probably would have been the first person to be the champ. So it boggles my mind. I'm just, the state of this sport and the way the fans treat it and the way it's perceived by people is the most, like you said, it's appalling. It's one of the more appalling things to witness as a really hardcore MMA fan. And it's just disappointing. And it's, it's just unfortunate. I don't really have any other words to say.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it just goes back to the fact that a guy of Demetrious Johnson's caliber, again, not only as a fighter, but as a human being. You're talking about a guy that, again, as a company man, has done everything that the UFC has asked for him and then some in terms of media obligations, in terms of being an exemplary human being, in terms of being an incredible role model for younger fighters and just for people in general. I mean, this guy's every man's man and as a family man. I mean, I can't say enough about Demetrious Johnson as a person. And to see him get treated this way, like I said, again, all because he won't take a fight with a guy that has never fought at flyweight and has lost to a guy, again, got knocked out in the first round by a guy that Demetrious Johnson not just beat, manhandled for, 9 out of 10 rounds?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just appalling. And then the promotion, I mean, to me, that's the thing that baffles me the most is, like, the lack of promotion for Demetrious Johnson. I mean, at one point I get it. It's the flyweight division. It was a newer division. There isn't a whole lot of star power. There isn't a whole lot of fresh matchups, whatever. Like, I've heard all the criticisms for the flyweight division, and I get it. But at this point, with the level of greatness that we've seen from Demetrious Johnson, again, there is really nothing to criticize. I mean, maybe he doesn't talk like Conor McGregor, but he talks enough to sell the fight. I mean, it's not like he's not selling the fight. He still will break down his opponent. He'll still talk about what he's going to do. And the guy, like I said, for the longest time, the thing I always heard about DJ was he can't finish fights. And it seems like the last 6 or 7 fights Demetrious Johnson's been in, he's finished 80% of them. Finished Henry Cejudo, finished Joseph Benavidez, finished Kyoshi Horiguchi, finished Wilson Hayes. It goes on and on and on and on. And outside of the Ultimate Fighter 24, what has the UFC done to push this man whatsoever? This is the same company that can try to promote to you CM Punk. This is the same company that can try to promote to you that Sage Northcutt is a viable contender in the featherweight and lightweight division. This is the same company that will promote Paige Van Zandt as a viable strawweight contender. And again, I mean this with all due respect to all of them.
Yep.
This is more an indictment of the UFC than it is them. But if we're just being real, even to an extent, this is a company that can push someone like Michelle Watterson because she's attractive and because she's a mom and this and that, and then she goes in there and gets destroyed by Rose Namajunas in the second round or whatever it was, and Paige Van Zandt, we all know about her losses, and Sage Northcutt, and the list goes on and on. But you can't push Demetrious Johnson, the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, because he knows his value, because he knows his worth, because he doesn't want to take a fight with a guy that's not even the champion of his own division right now, a guy that has unfinished business at 135. I mean, TJ Dillashaw, I mean this with all due respect to him, what the fuck are you doing trying to fight DJ? You got to fight Cody Garbrandt. You got a hell of a task at 135, little guy named No Love, who's got a lot of unfinished business with you. I'd be a little worried about that task instead of Instagram every day, the new spice company that you got that's going to help you get to 125. I you know what I mean though? The fact that this is even an issue, and he's calling TJ Dillashaw's calling him Demetrious Johnson a bitch and all these things. It's that's even TJ Dillashaw's showing that he's another one of the Zuffa puppets, and that's okay and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's not be delusional enough to call Demetrious Johnson a bitch. So it's just funny the way that the UFC is trying to bully DJ, and it's brilliant, and it's so fun to watch him beat their bullying. Unlike you've seen the Diaz brothers just kind of beat their bullying with just saying "fuck you," we're not going to fight, and then you got Luke Rockhold just trying to bully them back by just being more douchey than them. But Demetrious Johnson, it's like the way that he's beating their bullying antics is just being more intelligent, just being real, being genuine, and just stating facts and stating the situation for what it is. And I think this is something that's long overdue, and I think it's so great that a fighter of DJ's magnitude, again, the best fighter in the sport, came out and finally said enough's enough. I will not stand for this bullshit anymore, and I deserve to be treated as the best fighter in the sport. And until I am treated that way, you will not be seeing me compete. I love it, and again, I think it's long overdue, and I think there's a lot of fighters that should take note.
I love it too, and you really see it recently. You've seen a lot of guys come out and they're fed up with the UFC's BS. They're fed up with it. They're tired of it, and they're done with it. And
I didn't even mention Ally Quinn. I don't mean to interrupt you. Ally Quinn has been probably one of the other more vocal top, flight fighters lately. And again, the way he's been about it has been very aggressive and kind of trying to bully the bully back. But DJ, I think the way he's handled it is so brilliant, just being professional and more intelligent.
Yeah, I agree. And even Anderson Silva came out and had his outburst on the MMA Hour, which I never thought you would hear Anderson Silva come out and say that. And Anderson Silva, the greatest of all time, get treated like that. You know what I mean? It's like
the fact that Anderson Silva and Demetrious Johnson, two of very, very well could be the two best fighters of all time. I'm not going to say they're the two best, but just for sake of argument, could be the number one and number two best fighters of all time. The fact that they can be treated like this, it really is. It says a lot about the sport of MMA, and it says a lot about Dana White as a person and WME as a company.
Whew, it really does. So let me think of the reasons not to promote DJ, quote unquote, from Dana White. The smaller divisions don't sell. That's a lie, because Ronda Rousey fought at 135, and you promoted the living hell out of her. Conor McGregor fought at 145, and we all know the story with him. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is 115 pounds, and you're promoting her more than DJ. Even Cody Garbrandt gets more promotion than DJ does.
Yeah, a guy that hasn't defended his belt yet.
No, he hasn't. But he got to fight on a huge stage.
Right.
On the UFC 207 card with Ronda Rousey, got to fight on a huge stage and performed his ass off. All due respect to Cody Garbrandt. He's amazing. I mean, the way he dominated Dominic Cruz was outstanding. I mean, I did not think that would happen. I did not think that would go down like that. He proved me wrong, and, I mean, the dude's a stud. But like you said, for TJ Dillashaw, he's got unfinished business with him. There's a lot of beef there. That fight needs to happen. Saying that the lower weight divisions don't sell, that's just a flat-out lie. Saying that, he doesn't have enough competition, that's BS, because Conor McGregor became popular off of fighting guys like Dennis Seaver. And Dustin Poirier, and once again, all due respect to those guys, especially Poirier, but Poirier doesn't have a big name. Why is Conor able to do that? The girls that Ronda Rousey was beating, they didn't have big names, but you promoted the hell out of her. Demetrious Johnson fights boring fights, he doesn't finish. That's a lie too. That fight against Wilson Hayes, I had so much fun watching that fight. That was so entertaining. DJ outclassed him from the get-go, and it was amazing seeing every second of that fight happen, the way he outclassed him, and then the way he submitted him on the ground was just mind-blowing. Oh my god, it was an amazing performance, but you've got not even a peep of that performance. And I think that Fox card was one of the lower-rated Fox cards, with viewership, that the UFC's had. So it's unreal. And I love this quote from Demetrious. And saying that he doesn't have personality is also BS because of quotes like this. He's on the MMA Hour with Ariel Juan. He goes, look what Conor is doing now. Conor isn't even in the sport of mixed martial arts. Technically, he's a champ and he's not even ready to defend his belt. Where's Ronda at? Exactly. Nobody knows. Where's my black ass at? I'm out here still trying to defend my title. I'm still trying to represent this company as the greatest comeback sport on the planet Earth. So you cannot tell me Demetrious doesn't have personality. They asked that when Dana threatened to close the division, you know what Demetrious said? He said, close the motherfucking division. He doesn't care. How does that guy not have personality? How is he not promotable? All you've got to do to promote this guy, he doesn't have to talk. Just like Anderson Silva, just like GSP. GSP didn't talk. GSP didn't have a personality. He was one of the more promoted fighters because of his skill. Because back in the day, that's when people watched guys because of skill sets. John Jones, another thing. John Jones used to have a fake personality to be nice because he wanted to project himself as a role model. And guess what? He got a ton of follows. People were following him like hell because he was so talented. Demetrious Johnson has a personality. He has the skill. All you got to do is show him fight. And they don't do it. That's their own fault. And, for Dana White to say some BS like the smaller divisions don't sell, or DJ doesn't finish fights, or he doesn't have a personality, if any of those reasons come up, BS. Bogus. Don't care what anybody says. Anderson Silva didn't always fight the guys with the biggest names, but his fights were talked about, and his fights were watched. He had high viewership because of his skills. And it should be the same exact case with DJ, but because of the lack of promotion, he doesn't get it, and it sucks. It's really unfortunate. He doesn't get any promotion, and the UFC doesn't promote him on Twitter. They don't social media, television commercials, anything. He doesn't get it, and to say that he shouldn't get pay-per-view points, they're going to close his division because of this, and for him to, like you said, the way he came out and responded, brilliant. I think, while all of these guys have kind of, there's been a lot of them that have come out recently and have been, blasting the UFC. The Reebok deal is awful. We all know that. That works in the benefit of the company, not the fighters. You should be looking out for your fighters. Dana White just bought a $6 million house. So if he gave a quarter of that to half of his fighters, they would be able to probably have more than a tiny apartment home. So it just boggles my mind. And for all of these fighters to recently come out, they've had enough. And because of guys like Conor McGregor being able to talk his way into this and his way into that, they're seeing that he's not getting in trouble for talking. I'm not going to get in trouble for talking either. I'm going to talk. You're going to let Conor do this? Why don't you let me do that? It's not fair. And it's not. Every fighter that has come out and spoken, and that what pisses me off so much about it too, is you've got these casual Conor McGregor fans who, not just Conor McGregor, there's a lot of fans who watch the sport, and you've seen guys like Anderson Silva come out, and Demetrious, and who else? Jose Aldo came out and spoke. Juliana Pena talked. Ali Aquinta. A bunch of people have come out over the past year, less than a year, and have just been fed up with what the UFC is doing. And it's, what people say is mind-blowing. They'll be like, oh, he's a crybaby. Oh, Demetrious is ducking TJ. He's a coward. Are you serious? Do you hear yourself? It boggles my mind, the UFC's mistreatment of fighters and the way the fans perceive things happening is some of the most mind-boggling stuff I've ever witnessed in my life.
Yeah, without question, man. It is. And the last thing I'll say about this, if TJ Dillashaw wants a flyweight title shot so bad, prove that you can beat John Dodson. The guy's in your weight class now. You don't even got to cut weight. You don't have to put your special seasoning on your food. You can stay at 135, and you can fight prove that you deserve a shot at the best fighter in the world rather than bitching on Instagram and kissing Dana White's ass for the title shot. Stay at 135. Prove you can beat John Dodson, or even wait like a man and fight Cody Garbrandt and, give us the fight that we all want to see at 135, and let DJ handle his business with Ray Borg, and we'll all be about our way, and it is what it is. But I'm really interested to see how the rest of 2017 plays out for DJ, and how this situation plays out with, maybe other fighters speaking out, and, if some other situation may present itself that happens along these lines with another fighter in another division. But seeing where DJ goes next is probably maybe the thing that has me on my the edge of my seat the most for MMA in terms of the rest of 2017. Seeing his next move and kind of the fallout and the overall, I guess, the end goal of this whole fiasco. What's going to be the end of it? I'm fascinated to see it, and again, just so much respect for Demetrious Johnson, one of the realest, most genuine, classiest, incredible, humble athletes that we have representing our amazing sport today. And the fact that he's being treated like this is bullshit. And I'm so glad that he won't stand for it. And I'm glad that he responded in the only way that he knows how to, with immense intelligence, immense class, immense humility, and just literally made Dana White look like the bald bozo buffoon that he is.
Yep, 100%. And for Dana to come out. I think before, because I think it was slowly starting to piss DJ off, and then I felt like he probably wasn't going to say anything, and then I think Dana came out in public and was like, I don't understand why Demetrious isn't taking the fight. He's crazy for not taking the fight. I think he was like, I've had enough of this shit. I'm going to go on MMA Hour and just destroy this idiot, and I'm done with it. And that's basically what he did. And he did it in the best way he could. He did it in a professional way. He wasn't out here cussing Dana out. He wasn't, saying he deserves this, he deserves that. He's just trying to represent the company, like you said.
Yep.
And like a lot of these guys who are coming out and, having their way with the UFC in terms of like, bad-mouthing them and talking to them, DJ's probably done it the best. DJ's done it very well. Luke Rockhold came out and did it very well. Like he kind of douched his way into it, but Dana White fired right back, and he had said something like, "Go model if you don't want to fight." Like, how are you going to treat him like that? He's one of your best middleweights.
Honestly, Luke Rockhold could probably make more money modeling with the shit amount of pay that the UFC does. So I mean, fighter pay is a whole nother issue, but
fighter pays for a whole
nother podcast and episode. But it's just baffling, and I even saw. And this could be because the Ultimate Fighter is on Wednesdays, correct? I don't want to make. All right, so maybe it is because the Ultimate Fighter's on tonight because tonight's Wednesday, and maybe it's just because he's one of the coaches. But I saw TJ Dillashaw is actually going to be on, I think, tonight's episode. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be on tonight's episode of UFC tonight. And he was all decked out in the suit and everything. And Daniel Cormier was promoting it. And like I said, it could easily be to recap Tough or whatever. But there's a big part of me that think he's going to be on there to just chirp more about this DJ situation. He was probably told by Ari and the idiots at WME and Dana White, to go on there and, hey, hype up the fight with DJ, call DJ out, say he's scared of you, say this or that. And the fact, to me, the whole baffling part is not even, the fact that TJ Dillashaw is willing to sell out and just be, the Zuffa clown or, the WME clown. But the more appalling part to me is after DJ responded and made that statement, said what he needed to, responded in the fashion that he did, again, with intelligence, humility, went on the MMA Hour, did that interview with Ariel Wani, that the UFC still has the fucking audacity to play these kind of bullish WWE idiotic games to be like, okay, all this still happened, and we're still going to bring TJ Dillashaw on UFC tonight to talk shit about you and act like you're. It's just to me that's where the the appallingness comes. The fact that we're still looks like they're still trying to cohorts or bully or whatever DJ into a fight with Dillashaw. Again, it's just even dumber. It's just even more appalling.
100%. And wow, that's a great point because if TJ is going to be on the show tonight, that's 100%. If they're there to recap the show, whatever it is, he is going to talk.
DJ's getting brought up.
100%.
Exactly.
And if this fight somehow does happen, if Demetrious Johnson and Demetrious did say he would take the fight under his certain terms, and in my opinion, there's no reason why these terms aren't agreeable.
Yeah.
TJ's never fought at 125 before. If TJ misses weight, Demetrious Johnson spends all this money on a training camp for it not to be a title fight, and he's not going to fight him if he misses weight, for one. And number two, he said he wants his purse. Why is that not doable, in my opinion? If a fighter misses weight and in a situation like this, where you're going to bully him into this fight, give him his purse. Like, go ahead, do it. But if this fight does happen, I will never root so hard for Demetrious Johnson in my life to win this fight. And if this fight does happen, if Demetrious Johnson does win, I hope he just goes off on a tantrum on the mic afterwards and then gets all the credit in the world, gets all the viewership, gets everything that he's deserved. I hope if this fight does happen, that happens. But to say that Demetrious Johnson is afraid of TJ Dillashaw is bogus, because he literally said on the MMA Hour, he said, after my next title defense, after the TJ Dillashaw Cody Garbrandt fight, I want the 135-pound champ. I want it. I want to move up there, and I want to fight for the title. So don't tell me that that Demetrious Johnson is afraid of TJ Dillashaw. Don't tell me that shit. It's not no. It's simply no. Don't tell me he's afraid and he's a coward. He literally said he'd fight him under the right terms. The UFC doesn't want to give him that term. They don't want to give him the terms. And he said he would fight Cody Garbrandt after their fight with each other and after he defends his title against Ray Borg. So whatever the UFC does, it's bogus right now. And if this whole TJ Dillashaw thing plays out the way it does, and if this fight actually happens, I hope Demetrious throttles him in 2 rounds. And it's not even a hatred against, because I do like TJ Dillashaw's a great fighter, but like even you said you bring up the John Dodson loss, 100%. That fight was a while ago, and TJ has improved quite a bit, but that 100%.
Yeah, but it has to be pointed out, because if we're really talking about super fights, right? If we're talking interdivisional fights, you're talking about the greatest fighter of all time, and you got knocked out by a guy that literally beat him 1 out of 10 rounds.
Right. Exactly.
So like, and I'm totally with you. It's unfair to TJ because he's improved dramatically since then. And I think he'd probably be favored against John Dodson even probably today. But it's just like the facts are the facts, and it's like if I was Cody Garbrandt, if I was TJ Dillashaw, I would, like I said, I would really just enjoy the summer, let Cody Garbrandt heal that back and handle your business at 135, and then what you want and what you're truly seeking in this fight with Mighty Mouse will come to you, and it'll be worth even more money for you at that point, because you'll be the bantamweight champion. It will be a title, champion versus champ bout. You have the win over Cody Garbrandt. I don't understand why TJ Dillashaw is just not thinking more in those terms. And like I said, for me, it's like he's this WME pawn. And like I said, the fact he's going on UFC tonight and probably to bully Demetrious more and try to hype it up more, to me, I think he's just losing more money by doing what he's doing, rather than just sitting back, waiting to fight no love, handle your business, do what you say you're going to do, put it on him, win that belt, and then go get that fight with Mighty Mouse when, the strike when the iron is at its hottest. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I partially want to believe that it's not just because, the UFC is bullying him, of course, but into, going on the MMA hour and whatnot.
Right.
But I almost feel like he probably sees DJ as a fight that's, he probably thinks he can beat DJ easier than he can beat Cody.
Oh, and sure, yeah.
If he tries to hype this fight up and whatnot, and if DJ says no, and all TJ has to do is go on the go on the show and say that DJ is scared. That's all he has to do, and people are going to be like, oh yeah, DJ's scared, blah blah blah. His legacy is going to be tarnished if he doesn't fight TJ, which I've actually read before. It's gonna provoke the fight to happen even more. And it's just an unnecessary fight. It's hardly a super fight. TJ was the 135-pound champion. He's not anymore. It boggles my mind. And I don't know what more there is to talk about this other than to just say that I hope that the UFC does what's right, which they won't. I hope TJ Dillashaw does what's right, but he likely won't. And if this fight happens, which if it does, I hope DJ knocks his head off. And it's not because I hate DJ Dillashaw. It's because of this whole thing with the UFC, and they're trying to make this fight happen, and they're trying to bully DJ into taking this fight, and they're not giving him his respect. And I hope if this fight happens, DJ just absolutely outclasses TJ Dillashaw and just destroys him in a couple rounds, and then has his way on the mic and gets his damn money, because he deserves it more than anybody else.
Yep. Last thing I'll say on it, be careful what you wish for. And I'd say that to the UFC and to TJ Dillashaw. Be very, very careful what you wish for.
Be 100%, because think about it.
Because your boy might dip out and go to Bellator and just roll in the chunk of change that Viacom's got.
Oh, yeah. Not just that, but let's, in terms of being careful what you wish for TJ Dillashaw's point of view and his perspective, if he gets his fight and gets throttled, he's not getting the title shot at 135 anymore.
Yep, lose another big fight. Another big payday down the drain. Huge payday down the drain.
Huge payday, and he probably won't get a fight at 135 for a bit.
And I believe Cody Garbrandt has even come out and said as much. I think almost quote for quote has said if TJ Dillashaw loses to Demetrious Johnson, he will flat out refuse to fight TJ Dillashaw. So
I would too.
And I would too, exactly. So if I'm TJ Dillashaw, like I said, sit back, enjoy the summer, do some fishing, eat some peanut butter with Dwayne Ludwig, work on some flow technique, put that new spice on your sweet potatoes, help you get down to flyweight or whatever for the future, and fight Cody Garbrandt come wintertime and handle your business.
100%. I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, we've covered a lot on this episode, and I think that we've really had a great chance to kind of get all of this anger and frustration we have towards the UFC out. And I think we had I think this was a really a good show for us to come on here and just kind of vent and talk, not just recap we it's like we didn't even get a chance to truly appreciate and recap the fight between Max Holloway and Jose Aldo and what happened in the fight because of all the drama that's happening, not just with TJ and DJ, but with that fight as well, and all of these Conor McGregor fans talking this and talking that because of the Jose Aldo. The fact that he lost to Conor McGregor, and all these fans are coming out of the blue and talking this and that about Jose Aldo and how we have to come on here and defend him because we're actually knowledgeable human beings who have followed the sport for years and years. So it boggles my mind. I would love to see the UFC actually do what's right and start, having some merit again and starting to be more legitimized like they initially were before Conor McGregor came along. And it's I'm not trying to put all the blame on Conor McGregor because Conor's a really smart guy. He's going to take the opportunities that come his way. He's going to make the best decisions for him. But when the UFC gives him this and gives him that and gives him this, why wouldn't he take it? So at the end of the day, you could put all the blame on Conor McGregor that you want. It's the UFC's fault for everything. For Michael Bisping, for Conor McGregor, for Ronda Rousey, for DJ, for Anderson Silva, for GSP, John Jones, well, maybe not John Jones, but that's the one thing, it's not their fault. Just about everything. You can place the blame on the UFC for everything. It's their fault. This whole sale that's happened, the Fertitta brothers were like, hey, I see the direction this thing's going in, I'm gone. So, shouts to them, congrats, you made a shit ton of money and made off, and you built the UFC to what it was, and you're watching it crash and burn. So, I'm proud of you, Fertitta brothers. Great job. With that being said, is there anything else to discuss on this thing, or did we get everything out?
I think in terms of Demetrious Johnson and like this whole situation with the UFC, I don't think there's I'm sure there's a lot more we could say, but I think we covered the main topics of that, and again, like I said, it's probably the topic I'm most fascinated to see play out in 2017 or the rest of 2017 in terms of MMA is this whole DJ versus TJ versus WME versus UFC versus Dana White, whatever you want to call it, and I think ultimately, like, I guess maybe to put a cap on just this whole Demetrious Johnson discussion, maybe before we get into talking about a little quick pick for Mark Hunt and Derrick Lewis, I think, like, just to put a bow on this, I think ultimately the end of this whole the resolution of this whole situation is we probably will see Demetrious Johnson probably end up fighting Ray Borg in what will be a much better fight than people think. And if he gets that title defense, I'm sure we'll see TJ and Cody fight in October, November, December. And I could almost guarantee you, I would be really surprised, even with the way it's going. I know it's really bad now and kind of a long shot now, but I'd be really surprised if not maybe sometime early, like first quarter 2018, DJ gets that, super fight that, he so deserves and so wants with, either Cody Garbrandt or TJ Dillashaw for the UFC bantamweight title. I would assume, regardless of everything that's being said, there's still a strong chance that happens in the early portion of 2018.
I hope so. I really hope that's what happens. You couldn't have said it any better. I don't really have anything to add on that. I think DJ I think the Ray Borg fight should happen. And like DJ had said, that's the fight that was initially offered to him. And then when TJ wanted the fight, that's when all this fiasco started. So do what's right. DJ's just trying to be a company man and do what's right and fight number one contenders and not have people skip in line. So do what's right. Get Ray Borg the fight. Make that fight happen. Have TJ and Cody Garbrandt fight each other, like you said, late 2017 and then first quarter 2018. Let's have DJ move up to 135 and fight for that title. So hopefully that is what happens. If that doesn't happen, I don't even know. So let's hope that happens. So let's go ahead and move on to a super quick pick for Derrick Lewis and Mark Hunt, because we're on an hour and a half right now. Holy crap! Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's been a great hour and a half. So
yeah, it's been a great discussion.
100%. So who you got for Derrick Lewis and Mark Hunt?
It's a nutty fight, man. It's a fun fight. Derrick Lewis is a guy, like, I'm so entertained by not only watching him fight, but just his social media accounts, his interviews when he talks, man. He's just a really funny guy. He has no filter.
We're Ronda Rousey's fine asset.
Exactly. Like, that's Derrick Lewis in a nutshell. You know, he just no filter, just in there, you know, just having a good time. And Mark Hunt is obviously, anyone that knows me is one of my favorite fighters, a legend in the sport, in my opinion. I know some people may not agree with that, but it's, you know, if Mark Hunt is fighting, I'll definitely be watching. For this fight, it's just weird to me because it's like there's so much questions about Mark Hunt's durability. Like, is his chin still there? And obviously Derrick Lewis, I mean, you're talking about one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division. Not a guy that has a whole lot of technique, but again, huge power. Good wrestler, like solid wrestler, I'd say. Maybe good wrestler's a stretch. Solid wrestler, solid takedown ability, but really, like, where he just steamrolls guys, that top position. And I mean, he has vicious punches and vicious elbows from that top position, and he probably has good enough wrestling, and he's probably strong enough to where I could easily see him taking Mark Hunt down. And if he gets on top of Mark Hunt with the offense that he has on that top position, he easily could finish Mark Hunt, put him away, or catch Mark Hunt with a big punch and finish him. But it's in New Zealand, and, you know, I think it's still a very winnable fight for Mark Hunt, so I'm going to go with Mark Hunt. I think he's definitely, from a technical standpoint, he's the superior striker. Still, you know, no question, is the better kickboxer. I think his kicks will really slow down Derrick Lewis. I think he'll be able to land that straight right hand. I think he'll be able to land an effective jab. And I think his speed will be a huge, huge factor in this fight. And I think it will be ultimately the undoing of Derrick Lewis. I think he's going to beat him to the punch. I think his leg kicks wear him down, and then the speed kills Derrick Lewis to the punch. And I think Mark Hunt gets a win. So I'm going to go with Mark Hunt. I'll say late first, early second round knockout or TKO.
All right. I mean, I basically agree with your prediction, spot on. I really like Derrick Lewis a lot. I think that he is awesome to watch fight. I think he's awesome to watch on social media. He's hilarious. He's a true comedian. He's really funny, and like you said, he's got no filter. And huge punching power, decent boxing and kickboxing skills, but nothing special. He's just got a lot of power and a lot of heart. And that's one of the big things with Derrick Lewis, is he's just got so much heart. And he's not going to give up in any fight. Like we saw in the Travis Brown fight, he got hit really hard in the stomach and to the body, and, you know, we didn't see him give up, and he came back and knocked out Travis Brown. So that's the type of fighter Derrick Lewis is. He's not super technical. You know, he doesn't have the best cardio in the world. He doesn't have the best ground game. He's a decent wrestler. He's a decent kickboxer. He's just got a ton of power and a ton of heart. And that's all you really need to win fights in the heavyweight division. You need some technique, a lot of heart, and a lot of power. But like you said, Mark Hunt, in terms of technique, definitely the more technical striker. And this is happening in New Zealand as well, like you said. I definitely favor Mark Hunt because of, not necessarily just because of that, but like you said, the speed, power. They both have equal power. I mean, both of these guys can knock each other out with one punch. Derrick Lewis has been knocked out before. He's been rocked plenty of times in his UFC career. Matt Mitrione, I think, knocked him out in the first round or something like that when they fought. So Derrick Lewis definitely can be knocked out, and Mark Hunt is, in my opinion, a better striker. But can he get inside on the... I think Derrick Lewis is bigger. And, you know, Mark Hunt had a lot of trouble getting inside on Alistair Overeem. Obviously different fighting styles. But I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I'm going to say Mark Hunt gets it done, but like you said, the durability is a question. Is, you know, his chin kind of gone right now? And can Derrick Lewis survive an early onslaught, or can he just land a big punch early and put Mark Hunt out? This is a toss-up, in my opinion. You could flip a coin. Whoever lands the first big punch is probably going to win this fight, but I think Mark Hunt's probably going to beat him to the punch.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. It's like, it just comes down to, again, the durability concerns is... Does Mark Hunt still have that iron chin, and his defensive wrestling? I mean, his defensive wrestling will always be a question, and Derrick Lewis by no means is a world-class wrestler, but he has enough takedown ability to get Mark Hunt down. And again, he is so lethal from that top position, has such heavy punches, does so much damage. Literally is a nightmare from anybody when he's on top with his offense. So if he gets on top of Mark Hunt, it's probably a wrap. Yeah, it's probably a wrap. But if Sean Jordan and Matt Mitrione can start you, I'll have faith that Mark Hunt can get it done in front of all them Kiwis up there in New Zealand.
Them Kiwis. Yeah, I agree. But like I said, I think this fight could definitely go either way.
No question.
Derrick Lewis lands a big punch, it's over. And like you said, he gets on top. Mark Hunt's probably not going to win that fight. If Derrick Lewis gets on top early, cardio-wise, I think Mark Hunt might have a slight advantage cardio-wise, but Derrick Lewis, I would say, Derrick Lewis has got so much heart that he's never out of any fight. So, like I said, flip a coin, you got a winner, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Mark Hunt. I'm going to say second round TKO. I think this is a big step up in terms of striking for Derrick Lewis and who he's fighting. And I think Mark Hunt he's going to exploit that, and I think Mark Hunt's going to take the victory. All right, so I think we have talked ourselves to death on this episode, and I mean we haven't had an episode in a few weeks, so we had to have a long episode, and there's a lot to discuss, a lot we had to get off our chest as MMA fans, and seeing the sport kind of just crumble day by day. And it's almost like Donald Trump's presidency, where you see something that scares you every tweet that CNN has, compared to how just about every day you expect something crazy to happen in the MMA world that's just totally unfair to the fighters and 100% profits UFC and makes absolutely no sense except for a business standpoint and has zero merit. So every single day I'm kind of checking my phone. I'm like, all right, anything crazy happen today? Nope. Nope. Nothing really happens that's like in order and standard anymore. It's just crazy stuff happening. So whenever crazy stuff happens, we'll get on here and talk. And that's what we had to do. And if we have to do it again next week, we'll have to do it. So, you got anything else to say, Evan?
No, man. Besides the fact, again, thank you for having me on the show, man. It's literally always an honor. It's a pleasure. It's always great discussing MMA, obviously with you, but also with Manny. We can have such fun, not only fun discussions, and obviously we can be goofy and stuff, but we can also have really serious, like eye-opening, idea-filled discussions like the one we had about the UFC's treatment of Demetrious Johnson and the whole dynamic of him and Dillashaw and Conor McGregor. Like, that whole discussion was brilliant. And, I mean, again, just thanks for having me. If anyone out there, if you want to follow me, I got an Instagram. You can follow me. My tag is EVS, EVZ, EVS, triple Z. That's on Instagram. And then I got my YouTube channel, still doing fight breakdowns all these years later, youtube.com/HBomb. 3712. That's my channel name is HBomb 3712. Do a ton of fight breakdowns. Just started dabbling in the world of boxing a little bit. Broke down Errol Spence Jr. versus Kell Brook, that great welterweight matchup. Actually, I'll pat myself on the back. Called it spot on. Not many times I do that. Every squirrel finds their nut every now and then. But always breaking down MMA fights. Obviously, did Aldo Holloway. We'll have a ton of MMA breakdowns with the amount of obviously great fights we're going to have over the summer, and boxing breakdowns as well. Be on the lookout for those again at my channel. So that's all I got to say. Again, just honor and pleasure to be on the show as always, man.
100%. And yeah, guys, if you want, like, I don't really go on and do the videos like Evan does for the breakdowns, but if you want legitimate, in-depth, knowledgeable breakdowns of mixed martial arts bouts, instead of tuning into, I love Ariel Helwani and everything he does for the sport, but instead of tuning into their quick picks or anything like that, or instead of tuning into Fox Sports and hearing what Daniel Cormier and Kenny Florian have to say, or hearing what Chael Sonnen or Michael Bisping have to say, definitely, please go check out Evan's channel. He's great in-depth breakdowns. They've about 10 minutes or so if you really want to hear the fight, how it's going to go, and what each guy's strength is and how each guy can win. Evan does a better job than almost anybody I've ever heard. So please go follow and go subscribe to Evan's channel for those of you who are listening right now. He does a fantastic job breaking down fights. So please go follow him. What is the channel again? It's
HBomb 3712 on YouTube, and I can't thank you enough, Brent. That means more than the world. Appreciate that a ton. So
absolutely, 100%. Just trying to reveal the truth out here. So go follow Evan's channel. Some Dan Henderson nostalgia. His his YouTube name is hbomb3712. So definitely go follow that. You can follow me on Twitter, and you can also follow me on Instagram at bcristelli11. I would like to do some fight breakdowns just like Evan does here pretty soon. I keep telling you I'm going to open up a YouTube channel, and it's going to happen one day. One of these days where I'm like, you know what, today's the day. So just give it some time. It'll eventually happen. For now, the podcast is all I can kind of take on right now. And I think I've kind of decided to ditch the whole Pure Fight Radio Twitter thing. So just go ahead. It'd be a lot easier just to kind of tweet from my account. So please go follow my account. I'm at bcristelli11 on Twitter. You can get all Pure Fight Radio news and all stuff about podcasts right on there. So please go follow that. If you'd like to, you can follow the Twitter account that is at Pure Fight Radio, and please subscribe to our channel, which is the YouTube video you're watching right now, Pure Fight Radio. We're going to come on here and try to do these shows every single week now, and I know I say that every episode, but we're really going to try. So definitely follow me on Twitter at bcristelli11. Also, follow me on Instagram at bcristelli11. If you want more Pure Fight Radio updates, I'll try to post some on there as well. Thank you so much for watching the show, guys. If you're listening out there, we really do appreciate it. You know, we've got a small cult following right now, if you will, if there is a cult following. So trying to get it bigger and bigger every time we have a show, and spacing out almost a month between episodes really isn't the best idea, but you know, you got to do what you got to do, and you can do what you can do. So thank you once again, Evan. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today and, you know, talking all this fiasco stuff. Really do appreciate it. And do you have anything else to say before you head out of here?
No, man, just take care. Again, everyone start listening. These guys do great work and are two of the best MMA minds I've come across. I'd really love to see this show take off and compete with the likes of the MMA Hour and, you know, those guys at Heavy Hands and some of the, you know, 5 Rounds with Brett Okamoto, some of those great other MMA podcasts. I'd love to see this podcast, you know, have a fan base like those so we can communicate with other fans. It'd be great. So do your due diligence, man. Pure Fight Radio. Listen to us. Listen to Brent and Manny. They're doing great work. And again, it's always a pleasure, man. It was great discussing MMA with you as always.
Fantastic. I really appreciate that. It does mean a lot as well. So yeah, like I said, go follow us. Go follow Evan's accounts. Go subscribe to Evan's account. Subscribe to this YouTube account. This is the place to subscribe right now at Pure Fight Radio on YouTube. Please go follow my Twitter account and Instagram accounts at bcristelli11. I will plug Manny's channels as well. You can follow Manny on Twitter and Instagram at TheMannyDavid. And he also has a scents channel called Cascade Scents on YouTube that you want to go check out as well if you want any information about fragrances. So please go subscribe to that as well. Subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to Evan's channel. Follow us all. We would really appreciate it if you do. Thank you for listening, and you guys have a great night.
I got army guns.
Yo, G-Money.
I got army guns. Yeah, I feel like Muhammad Ali when I pull up to the scene. Dodging all these freaks, cause my squad is all I need. I wanna swing like Willie B, how I'm swinging from these trees. Pull off in the Jeep, said I'll see you in a week. I feel like Muhammad Ali when I pull up to the scene. Dodging all these freaks, cause my squad is all I need. I'm gonna swing like Willie B, pull up in your shit. This shit, yeah. Since a youngin', tryna get the wheels in motion, now we run it, See me plugging everybody, ask for something, Bobbing, weaving, bobbing. You ain't nothing. Hold up, let me explain. I feel inspired.